All right, everybody, welcome to Where the Scary Things Are. We have a very special guest, Kelly Schwartz, the director of the Abigail Haunting. What's up, Kelly? How you doing, man?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're really excited. So I gotta get one question out of the way first and foremost. This is probably the most important question of the whole show. How you being in Vegas, right? You're in Vegas now. Are
Yes.
you excited for the Raiders?
Well, it's a trick question. So I'm a Seahawks fan, honestly. We have family in Seattle, so it's kind of tough. But I'm excited to see live sports here in Vegas. So I suppose I'll root for the team. So it is cool. I mean, Vegas was a little town. I mean, I grew up here, so it's kind of cool to see all these like big kid things happening in Vegas now.
Yeah, that stadium is something else. So I am an absolute huge Raider fan, and
Yeah,
it.
right.
I'm excited for it. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, which is a little bit south from you. So them coming, a little bit more east into Vegas, a really cool stadium. I'm excited for that. Maybe I'll run into you. I'm definitely going to a game if we're allowed to go to games. I got a ticket for a December game, but I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this ticket. It's crazy. Um, so yeah. I really want to ask you about your company first and foremost and what you do. I know that you directed Abigail Haunting, but you don't only direct. So tell us about your company.
Well, so we have a company called Indie Film Factory. It is a production studio that my wife and I started about 10 years ago. We were coming out of the end of a production company that we were partners with. And we had done everything from like sports related TV shows from the Olympics to the UFC, a lot of high profile sporting type TV projects. And so we were looking for a space, for the movies that we were making, we were always looking for space. And that was something that we never had access to. So one of the thoughts were, hey, let's start our own space that we could like make it affordable and easy for independent filmmakers. That was actually her idea, my wife Charisma. But it was funny when she told me the idea. I'm like, that's a terrible idea because like independent filmmakers never have any money. Like, so why this can be a terrible business model. But it ended up working out pretty good. So we have a rental facility, which you kind of see behind me. We have a green screen and all that stuff. We also have a video production company that does commercial branded content stuff. We still work a little bit with the UFC, but I also do photography, DP work, director of photography work for A&E History Channel and shows that are on that network.
Well, that's awesome, man. And you are located in Vegas, huh? So entertainment capital of the world. Wouldn't have.
Yeah, yeah, we got cut out a little bit there, but yeah, I think you were asking, in terms of stuff here in Vegas, it's kind of a cool place to be, and we have a lot of.
Abigail to watch.
Okay.
I wanted. I'm sorry. I wanted to watch what I wanted to watch. I wanted to pick something for me. Um, so my daughter's name is Abigail, and it kind of jumped out at me like, "Ooh, Abigail Haunting! I'm going to watch this film." So how did you get involved? And tell me about how Abigail Haunting got started.
So we were coming off our last movie, Alien Domicile, and what was kind of cool about it is I was talking to the distributor, and he's like, "Hey, what are you working on next?" So I was thinking, "Hey, we had some success with Alien Domicile. Why don't I try to do a better Alien movie? I've learned a little bit. It was my first Alien film. Let me try to do something." I was actually working on a science fiction film, and I went to go see, I think it was Annabelle. I was sitting in the theater with a friend, and I'm watching like these grown men screaming and stuff in the theater, and I'm sitting there going, we're making the wrong movie. I've never done like a haunted house movie like this before. So I called the distributor literally as I was walking out of the theater, and I'm like, "Hey, I want to do a haunted house movie." He was like, "Okay, cool." And then that's how it started. We started developing it. I dove in. I was a horror. I shouldn't say a diehard horror fan, but I love supernatural movies like Poltergeist, and of course the Conjuring series was great. The Grudge series was great, the original. So for me, it was kind of an opportunity for me to play in a sandbox that I'd never, that first off terrified me in terms of production, but it also was something that was fun because it was all new.
Ken, you're muted.
I think he's muted there.
He
We're all
is.
learning this
Sorry,
technology.
I'm trying to use a space bar as I talk. You know, it says you can press the space bar and it mutes you. And I'm jumping back and forth trying to manage the YouTube. So I have 100 questions I can ask about Abigail, but first and foremost, the casting. I thought you did a really good job about the casting. How did you, you know, it's a small cast, but it worked. You know, it's centralized on such a small area. How did you get involved and decide to bring on the actresses, and actors that you brought on?
So we looked at, we use a source called Backstage, which if you're in the acting community, it's pretty popular. The thing about Backstage was it gave us access to pretty much anybody who was out there. So we were looking at people all the way from like the UK. And we decided, you know, since it's such a small cast, let's splurge. If it costs money to travel somebody in, well, let's just find the right actor for this, because whoever the actress was going to have to carry this whole film. You know, and every film that I do, I try to up it a little bit. I try to add something that I didn't get a chance to do on the last one. And this one, I really wanted to focus on acting. So we met Chelsea Yurkowitz. We found her. She lived in Utah. She lives in Utah, and we had looked at probably 150 different actresses, and we had seen her early on, and it took us about 3 months, and we went back to Chelsea, and we said, you know, there's something about her. There's some quality that really kind of resonates with this character for us. And so we decided to pick her. And then Austin, who played Brian's character, Austin Clauso, he's based in Colorado. And we had met him actually fairly early on too. So it was funny, after watching all these people, we kind of rotated back to the original handful of people that we were most interested in.
All right, so I'm going to pass it on over to Muse. I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here with my screen. So I'm going to pass it on over to Muse and see what she's got for you.
Hey, hey Kelly. I just want to say I really liked the movie. It was really great. It had a really great story, which I really loved. So I want to ask you, what, in your opinion, was the most challenging scene to film during Abigail Haunting, in your opinion?
Wow. So I think it's funny. It's the one you probably would think was the easiest scene. There was a scene that took place in the movie where the main character, Chelsea's character, is basically talking to Brian. She's trying to leave town, and she's talking to Brian at a little cafe. It was the hardest scene to film because we had come off of almost a 14-hour production day, and it was pouring rain in Las Vegas. It was like monsoon rain. And we had not planned for this, and it was very difficult to get that shot done. We were up in this little town called Boulder City, which, if you're familiar, it's a little town near the Hoover Dam. And beautiful little town, usually pretty quiet. But on this very particular day that we were filming, there was like a field trip, like a school field trip. And it was like we're all tired and grumpy and kind of humid and wet. And we had to get through this production. And we had to turn around and film the bathroom scene directly after that. And the bathroom scene on top of that hindrance of a location almost killed me.
Yeah, I'm feeling you on the sticky, wet weather right now here in Michigan. It's really humid and sticky, so I can imagine that would have been absolutely no fun with the climate. So I wanted to ask you, a lot of times we talk about, you know, director's cut versions of films that are made are really popular nowadays. So I want to ask you, what scenes, if any, had to be cut that you wish you could have kept in the film during Abigail Haunting? Like, what kind of scenes did you feel that you wished you could have kept that might be released on the director's cut? I mean, hopefully it wouldn't be too much of a spoiler to reveal that.
Well, we had actually, it wasn't so much scenes that we cut. We actually just cut basically shots and longer takes from various scenes. You know, we were on such a small window of time, and our budget was so small with this movie that we really didn't have to. We had to really make sure that we were filming everything that we needed. So there was very little time for fluff, and we were running about a 14 to 15-day schedule, and we started production in a deficit. We were planning to film this movie in Colorado. And honestly, what was tricky about this is we had this beautiful Victorian house up in this little town called Cannon City. And about 6 weeks before the production, the owner called and she says, you know what? I decided I don't want my house to be in the movie. I'm afraid it's going to get labeled as a haunted house. And if I ever decide to sell the house, it's going to hurt the property value. So we ended up having to find a new location at the last stretch of pre-production. And so our schedule shrunk. So we didn't really have a lot of time. I think there were some scenes in the script that I had to cut out that we actually didn't film. But we originally had a basement, so it wasn't an old shed. It was actually a basement in the original script. And we had some marvelous, marvelous, scary scenes in there that we had to axe. So I think from a director's side, I think the most painful part was making the transition from first location to the backup location, so to speak. And that was I think the hardest part. But those scenes, unfortunately, were never filmed.
Oh, wow. That would have been something to see. Maybe on the director's cut, if you guys ever release that. I'd love to see that because I hear marvelously scary and I want to know, I want to see it. So, I have to ask, and I'm not revealing anything, but there is a very interesting ending to Abigail Haunting. And I want to know, hopefully I'm not stealing anybody's question here, but I want to know, is there a sequel that's possible? Because it seemed kind of open-ended there at the very end of the movie.
I think we left it open with the thought that if it were to be something that did well for us, that we could leave that door open to do a continued storyline. I think the idea of these characters kind of coming full circle, basically coming back home, was kind of the idea from the very beginning. But when we looked at it from how we filmed it, how we edited, how we left it hanging, it kind of opened the door for the possibilities if it were to be successful. But it could also be a standalone. It didn't need to be episodic. It could be standalone if necessary.
So, this is where the scary things are. I have one more question because I got to know. This is where the scary things are. So, it's a very great ghost story. And I loved it. Very spooky, very, very good build up to what transpired as the film progressed. So have you ever experienced anything supernatural or unexplained? Any type of hauntings, ghosts, creepy stuff, I want to hear the dirt.
So, I had, my family, they had a kind of a weird past. My mom's mom, my grandmother, she would claim that she would see ghosts all the time in her house back in Alabama. And there were parts of that house as a kid when we would go stay there that would terrify us. And if you've ever been to like the deep South, like Alabama, it's just scary as it is. Like at nighttime, right. It's pitch dark and it's just scary as it is, Yeah. So long story short, yes, I've had some creepy moments. Now, whether or not I can't really say I've seen ghosts running around the place, but I can tell you that my imagination probably got the best of me in my grandmother's house.
Absolutely. I have family down in Arkansas at one point, and it gets so dark out there. I could not believe compared to, I'm more like a city girl. And compared to down there, it's just like, they're out kind of like in farmland area. And I could not believe how dark it got. The lights are off and it's pitch black. I was just like, oh my goodness. So I believe it. And your mind does run away with you at times too, especially when it gets that dark. So I believe it.
And it's Alabama.
Right.
And also, whose grandmother's house isn't spooky? I was always scared at my grandma's house, right?
Yeah, it has that ambiance. I definitely agree. Okay, so I love talking to you, Kelly. I don't want to hog all the time, so I'm gonna pass you along to Chris, and I know he's got some great questions.
Hey, yeah, fantastic questions. You brought up the setting, and I was going to ask you about that. The Victorian mansion, the Gothic mansion, the trendy brownstone or old apartment building in New York City where, Rosemary's Baby was filmed, or The Sentinel was filmed, or that big mansion where the Lady in Black, the Harry Potter guy, and if you don't mention the setting and just summarize the movie, you would think it was in either that apartment building in New York City, that Victorian mansion, and Lady in Black. Not a double wide. I mean, you didn't just change the setting, went from the Victorian mansion to the kind of nice house at the end of the street with a nice porch on it. You went to, and I say this affectionately, you went to Redneckville and found a double wide, and a dingy double wide, because some double wides are very nice. That must have really been, and I don't know if that was the only thing available, but boy, you made that work. It was dark and dingy. You could smell the dust every time somebody stepped on that shag carpet. I think, it's kind of like the redneck version of a Roman Polanski movie.
Well, first off, I appreciate that. It was completely accidental, and I'll tell you the quick story behind it. So obviously, coming off the phone call from the house owner in Cannon City, we'd already paid money to this person, and so we were now worried: can we get any of that back, or is all lost? Plus, we'd spent thousands of dollars traveling up there doing location scouts and casting and hiring people. So I was so angry that I was ready to pull the plug on the whole project because I finance my own movies. And so I don't have like an investor that, everything was coming out of pocket. So I was about ready to pull the plug on the project and just say, we'll have to punt it into 2020. We'll just shoot it next year. Just, in April of 2020. That was going to be the game plan. So I called our associate producer who had been working with me on some other stuff. His name was Fernando Bucago. And Fernando, he was like, wait a minute. He goes, he sells real estate on the side, right? And he says, you know what? I just sold this crazy property to this guy. I don't know if he'll let us film there, but it's this like old mobile home. And I'm like, oh man, that's going to be cheesy. This isn't going to work. And he said, just don't rule it out yet. Let me just talk to the guy and I'll send you some photos. So he calls me back and he goes, you're not going to believe this. He's like, not only did the guy say, yes, you can film at this place if you want. He said, but he's also coming to a workshop that you're hosting at your studio this week. And come to find out, he's like an aspiring filmmaker, And so I go, okay, well, let's go see this place. I took our director of photography, Michael Tuss' house. We rolled up. And as we pulled up, we both looked out of my car and we were like, this might work, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, I went into it with the most negative, like there's no way this is going to happen. But it just kind of worked out. They had a shed, like an old dirty shed. The house was gutted, but like whoever had lived there prior, it was like they had smoked in it for 100 years. There was cats everywhere. It was bad news. We had to send a cleaning crew in to actually clean the place, shampoo the carpets, clean the walls, clean out the air filters. And then we had to bring art department back in to make it look dirty, but it didn't need too much after that. Trust
me. Watching it, you could smell the cigarettes and you could smell the cat urine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might want to suggest to him that he watch some HGTV and redecorate that place. But I want to talk a little bit about Katie, Chelsea's character, and Brian, Austin's character. I really thought Brian was going to get gutted because he just looked like such the nicest guy in the world. And I won't give away the ending or anything. But Katie, and I know she's a lovely young lady, but she comes on screen and you're looking at a mugshot. And her opening scene gives you a very ominous indication of the kind of person she is. And you bring her into the haunted trailer home as the diminutive victim. And it's not something that you would think worked, but in an instant, instead of fearing this lady, this hatchet woman, we're now afraid for her. And I don't know if it's kind of a vulnerability that she had leaking out of that toughness, but I think she did that extremely well. And of course, you're the director. You probably brought that out in her.
Well, she's a very talented young actress, Chelsea is. And, one of the things that she brought to the table was, she's very young, number one. And so a lot of the stuff, like the context of things, I had to explain to her, this is the backstory and but she was able to kind of visualize the pain and suffering in a way that was in some ways kind of concerning because, as a director, you don't want to make people sick. And she took it. I wouldn't say it's to the point of method acting, and I'm sure she could explain her technique much better than I can. But one of the things that was very, very apparent with her is that she dove in, she did her homework, she did her research. And my biggest notes to the actors were, look, I just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Try not to overact. If you sneeze too hard, people they're gonna notice. I mean, we're already under the microscope because we're this little independent, very low budget little ghost movie. So we want to try to keep it subtle. Let's try to sneak our way through this film. And that was kind of our mission, our strategy. But the actors they took it to the next level with that.
Well, thanks, Kelly. I don't want to hog the microphone, so I'm going to hand it over to Omar, but I am very eager to see your next film, even if it's a sequel to either this one or Alien Domicile.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining us again. I kind of want to continue kind of where Chris was going. I thought Chelsea did a great job here. And one of the things that was interesting about her character and things that got me is that she wasn't played as a character that you were going to like off the bat. You know, you were kind of suspicious of her and what she was doing in that room there at the beginning. And then even through the beginning of the portion, how she was mean to Marge. Why was it important to play, you know, her role as so iffy at the beginning until, you know, maybe later, or maybe the audience never liked her altogether?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. You know, so one of the ways that I approach my character development, I've always tried to do this, is approach it the same way it would be if you met a random stranger for the first time. You know, when you first meet somebody, you're, you know, in some cases you're kind of like, I don't know if I like this person, and it takes a couple days before you start to trust this person and understand who this person is. So I try to take my character development with that. I try not to come at the audience with, hey, like me. I want to give them baggage and real problems, as much real problems as I can, and let the audience kind of decipher, you know, whether that's okay with them or not. And I think it's fun to try that with characters. You know, I believe that every hero is flawed. I don't believe that, you know, everybody's just perfect. I believe that everybody has some level of trouble, and they're dealing with it in some way. And so it's always fun for me as a director to kind of play with that, or even as a writer to play with that with these characters, to give them some type of levels of complexity very early on, that make you question whether or not you trust this person or not. You know, and some people do. Some people, like you were saying, some people may not connect with that character, and that's been the case for some viewers. You know, but at the end of the day, it's an experimentation. Every time you do a movie, it's a big freaking experimentation, especially with character development.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm watching, you know, Katie's journey in this movie, you know, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, what is there going to be a point where I really like her? I mean, you do. There are things there that you know you do feel sorry for her in a way, but I mean, how sorry do you feel? You know, because there's always that mystery of what exactly did she do back at that hotel there, and obviously later you do find out, so that kind of helps resolve it. But I think that leaving it so open and so long in the movie really worked for the film.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So as writer and director, and as I saw that you wrote and directed a lot of other things, what do you prefer better, and how does that work? You know, basically, I mean, and you said you also self-finance this, so there's a lot of responsibility on this. How do you deal with all that and pulling this whole movie together?
You know, the kind of movies that I make, everything's compartmentalized. You know, so I start with the pre-production or the development process, and that development process, I don't switch hats until I'm done with that part of the process. And a lot of times, you know, I've done this long enough to know what kind of movies that I can afford to make, and also what kind of movies will end up making me some level of return on my investment. So for me, it's always about trying to compartmentalize each of those steps, so I don't get overwhelmed. You know, and I'm an inch by inch kind of person, you know, so it takes me about 2 years to develop a movie and really get it out there. And anytime I feel like I'm having to rush things, I get overwhelmed very easily. So I have to create those levels of just like areas. Okay, I'm not going to get past this level until I'm done with this. And if this takes 5 months, then this takes 5 months, you know, and that's just how it has to happen. You know, but I also think that I surround myself with really great people. You know, that's one of the key elements to any of this stuff, is that without the people that are around me, you know, I would stumble much more than I already do. You know, so hats off to everybody behind the scenes to help make all of this actually, you know, successful.
Do you ever find yourself leaning maybe one way or the other, writer or director? I mean, you know, some people like to do it all, but you know, and some people are forced to because of the situation. But do you ever find yourself, you know, wishing, you know, maybe I could take a step back and, you know, maybe I just want to write on this, or maybe I just want to direct over here?
Sure, you know, there's always that luxury of being able to say, I'm going to walk into set, sit down on a chair and direct the movie, and not have to worry about the back end of it all, you know, or the beginning of it all. there is that. And I do that a lot for my quote unquote day job. I direct commercials and shows where it's a big production, and I show up and I get to do my little thing, and, out the door I go, and it's all good. But when you're making a movie like this, a lot of the times, like you were saying, I kind of have to. I have to do that because I've always been under the idea that nobody's going to give me an opportunity to direct. I've got to be the person that creates my own opportunities, and I've always been that way. Everything that we have done is because I didn't ask for permission to do any of it. And if I that's what I try to teach students that I have that I work with or people that I consult is just don't ask for permission. And that's kind of been my mantra in life. Just do it. Just figure it out. Make mistakes. Be silly. Get people to leave bad reviews for you. It's all part of the process. Just keep doing your thing.
Is that, well, talking about that, I mean, is that some advice you would give to other filmmakers? I'm kind of interested in since you have so much control and whatever behind your projects and so forth, what is some advice you'd give to other filmmakers? And especially, I'm assuming you also had control over a lot of the distribution here. And how you went about doing that for this film and some of the other films that you've done.
It took me a while to find, when it comes to distribution, and I'll get back to the advice I'd give to a filmmaker, but it took a while to get my head around distribution. And my first two movies were complete flops. I mean, I had a bad distribution deal, and I remember sitting on the patio deck at the American Film Market in Santa Monica. And we had just had this horrible meeting with the distributor that had really given us a bad deal. We went up to the bungalow, had a meeting with them to ask if we could get permission, to exercise some other rights because they weren't doing anything with the film. They pretty much stuck it on a shelf for 10 years. And we were begging them, can we get our movie back? And they were like, nope, sorry, see you later, suckers, And I remember sitting on the patio deck, looking out at the ocean, and I had this moment where I'm like, there's two choices. Either I have to learn absolutely everything I can about the business part of this industry, or I have to quit. Those are my only two options. So do I want to quit? Do I want to go into real estate or something else, like some other career path? What do I want to do? So I decided I'm going to learn everything I can about this business. And so I pretty much went back to school. I read every book on distribution. I connected, I got mentors, people that were in the business. And so as I started moving through my professional career, every film that I made, I learned a great amount about distribution. Of course, now the economy's changed too, because even with this pandemic, the entire industry and how we consume content has changed, just within the last 6 months. So it's exciting. And I think now is the best time to be a filmmaker. What advice I would give to other filmmakers is that you have to start somewhere. You have to get some points on the board. Everybody's waiting for the conditions to be perfect. Everybody's waiting for the right money to come in, or they're waiting for the perfect script or the perfect actor or the perfect this. Those things don't just happen overnight. So if you're a first-time filmmaker or even making your first short film, the whole idea is just get some points on the board. Go out, make some mistakes, and don't be afraid to learn off of that. And I look at every movie that I've made. Every single movie that I've made has been a progression in terms of quality, in terms of production value, in terms of sound, in terms of acting, storytelling. All those have been progressions. So for me, it's I wouldn't have got to this point with Abigail had I not done Alien Domicile, and I wouldn't have had that if I hadn't done the movie prior, and so forth. And and a lot of people get overwhelmed by that because they're like, what if I make a fool of myself? And that's the hardest part as a creative person. You don't want to make a fool of yourself. You get into this business because you want to communicate. The last thing you want people to do is throw tomatoes at you. So, but you can't be afraid of it. You just have to,
Go for it. Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I kind of threw the distribution out there because I was very curious. I've had several conversations recently with a couple of filmmakers and so forth, and just the difficulties they've had in it. And since I'm not a filmmaker, I didn't know. As someone who promotes it, it's good to know where filmmakers are coming from and some of the struggles they go through too, in order to help them better. So it's interesting to also hear your story as well. So I thank you for that. And I'm gonna throw it back to Ken.
Well, excellent questions all around. I feel like I can start my own company right now. Thanks, Kelly. With the inspiration. So you must be a really excellent teacher. I wish I lived in Vegas, man. So I'm going back to some of Chris's questions and kind of the films that you got into before. What are the films that inspired you to do what you're doing?
Well, I grew up with, surprisingly enough, when I grew up, my dad introduced me to like Charlie Chaplin and like some of the classic movies. Like I was big into comedy like throughout my entire life. Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. I mean, I consumed those types of movies, black and white. So as kids were watching like comic book movies at the time, back in the 80s, I was watching like VHS tapes of like, of these like old 1940s comedy gags, So I loved that stuff growing up. I thought I was going to go into comedy. I started doing animation. Like I was an illustrator for a while, and I had big dreams of like going to Disney and becoming like an animator. And then I realized how hard of work that was, even getting in the door at that place. So I set my sights on like live action filmmaking. So for me, the movies that kind of inspired me most, I grew up watching, again, Abbott and Costello, Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy. But then when it comes to more contemporary films, as I got older, I started watching a lot of Stanley Kubrick movies, and I kind of got into that level of filmmaking. So I'm kind of a kid from the 80s as well. So I grew up around a lot of 80s, movies, of course, your Steven Spielberg movies and John Carpenter movies and all that stuff. So those were all kind of in my diet. And as I've gotten older, I find myself, more and more like kind of liking both documentaries and drama, of all things.
Well, there is something to be said, when you're watching like a documentary, as you say, because it's real, and us as a horror show, we love our horror, but when you get into the real stuff, it's really scary. So I hope at some point while watching all these movies, you mentioned John Carpenter stuff, that you retained some of this information, because on our show we like to do a little thing called where the Deathly 13. So the Deathly 13 is 13 questions that are totally random horror questions, okay? You get 3 lifelines. Actually, you get more than 3 lifelines. You can ask Chris or Horo or myself if we know the question. We can help you out and get you a point. You can ask for multiple choice, or you can maybe have the answer on the tip of your tongue and you need like a second to think about it. You can ask to delay the question to the end. So Muse is going to ask you these 13 questions. We have no idea what they are. And take it away, Muse. Good luck.
All right. Are you ready to jump into this, Kelly?
I'm going to fail miserably. I'm already sweating. Like, oh my God. Where's my lifeline? I'm gonna
You
fail.
and me both. You and me both. I'm sweating. It's hot. You're sweating because you're nervous. We're in this together. All right. All right. So I'm going to start out with giving you, for the first question, a synopsis of a film. And I'm going to ask you to tell me which film I'm speaking of for the first question.
And I can't ask for multiple choice, right?
You can. Definitely. I mean, definitely. Yeah. Your lifelines are all intact. You can do it anytime you want. Okay. So here we go. All right. First question. 5 friends rent a cabin in the woods, but everything descends into a gory nightmare when one of them contracts a flesh-eating virus in this 2002 Eli Roth film.
Cabin Fever?
Yes. All right. See, you're jamming already. You got it.
One for one.
That was a really easy one to think.
Well,
It's a warm up.
You're gonna give me hard on this next one. I can feel it.
Chris didn't know it, so it's okay.
all right. We're going to stick with the movie synopsis and for the second question as well. So here we go. 2 hapless employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a chemical into the air that reanimates the dead and ruins the evening for a gang of punks hanging out in the cemetery next door in this 1985 film.
Oh. Okay, what's my options? Can I have my multiple choice options?
Yeah. You can ask.
Chris.
Is Chris out? You want to use Chris's lifeline?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead. Okay, I'm like, I know what this is. Why can't I figure this out of my brain?
That was just released last week, right? Yeah, right?
Yes.
Or a couple, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Return of the Living Dead Day, indeed. Okay, question 3. All right. I'm going to give you another movie synopsis. We're going to roll with this. We're having fun with this. So, third question. 7 strangers are imprisoned for some unknown reason and are forced to navigate a maze of rooms filled with deadly traps in this 1997 film.
You can't go again, Chris. So remember, your lifelines are: you can ask me, Horo, It's multiple choice, or you can delay the question. And yeah.
Could you repeat the synopsis one more time? I was getting ready to say cube for a second, and I'm like,
Well, you might want to go with that.
all right, I'll say cube.
I like that. I like that answer. That is correct. It is Cube. It is Cube.
Well done.
Yeah, very underrated, great movie from the late 90s there. All right. Question 4. In Fright Night from 1985, Roddy McDowall played an aging horror actor named Peter Vincent. Reportedly, now this is a true or false, okay? So let me kind of like start over because I didn't say that in the beginning. My bad. Okay, so in Fright Night from 1985, Roddy McDowall played an aging horror actor named Peter Vincent. True or false? Reportedly, McDowall's character was named in honor of what? No, I'm sorry. So true or false? Roddy McDowall's, I rephrased this. I'm sorry. You can tell I rewrote it because I'm like butchering it. Okay, so true or false? Roddy McDowall's character was named in honor of Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. Is that true or false? Now, his character was named Peter Vincent. Is that true?
Boy, I don't know. Honestly, I'm going to go with the gut and just say true.
That is correct. It is true.
I was gonna give it to you no matter what. I was gonna give you the point no matter what, because Muse tried to sabotage you. So I'm gonna give you the point no matter what.
Yeah,
but you got it though.
That's an interesting clip note. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right. Question 5. Reanimator from 1985 was based on stories by what author?
Use the force. You got it.
I know. I think I'm gonna miss this one.
Okay, do you want to just go ahead and take a miss on this one?
Do you want to take? You can either take a miss. You can ask Horo or myself, or you can ask for multiple choice.
Okay.
Or you can postpone it still too, I think.
Or you can postpone it to the end and secretly Google it without us looking.
I know my hands. Can I get it?
Is it Clive Barker?
No, it's
Oh.
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.G. Wells. Dang.
No, H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. Sorry.
Yeah, I was. No, I would have missed that. I would have missed it.
Okay.
All right. So we missed one. Sorry, champ. Sorry, my bad.
All
See, I'm
right.
terrible with this. I'm freaking out. My brain just goes.
Oh, you're doing good. You only missed one so far. You're in good shape. All right. Question 6. In the classic horror Black Christmas from 1974, what is placed over the head of the first victim to suffocate her?
Do I get a multiple choice on this one?
Yes, you can. Is it a plastic bag, a burlap sack, or a Halloween mask?
I think it was a sack.
Oh, no. It was a plastic bag. It was a plastic bag. It was close, but no cigar on that one. Okay.
Okay.
No, you're still in good shape. You're still in good. You're 4 for 6 right now. 4 for 6.
Okay. All right. Come on. I'm ready. I'm warmed up. now.
We're in the home stretch.
I'm gonna burn
Question 7.
miserably here.
All right. What type of fictional entities are the threats in the movie Wreck, R-E-C, from 2007? Now, they remade it with Quarantine, I think.
Right.
years
Yeah.
later.
That was a remake with Quarantine. Right.
I don't get any more lifelines. I have no idea on this. I do not know this answer.
You can get Horo as your last one. Horo, or you can postpone to the end.
What do you think, Horo? Can I give you my lifeline here?
Well, say the question one more time.
What type of fictional entities are the threat in the horror movie Wreck from 2007? Or Quarantine was the remake a few years later. They're trapped in that apartment building.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. That's a
I
tough
don't know
one.
that there's a clear answer for that, but I mean, there's supposedly like zombies, but made of like a disease or something. I mean, it's not.
I would say
don't know
zombies. I would say zombies too.
I would too, and let's just say I have a pretty good feeling on this.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm kind of hinting at, zombies. But I know that depending on your definition of zombies, that I would go
I
with
guess
zombie.
it's debatable, but Slash Card says zombies.
Okay, then there you go. We're gonna give Kelly the
Slash Cards
point.
is spoken.
Yes.
All right,
Zombies.
zombies.
All right. Question 8. So this is a multiple choice by itself, or actually, No, it is true or false. All right. No, actually, it's multiple choice. Okay. So, what scene in the movie The Descent from 2005 was edited for theatrical release in North America? Was it the opening or the ending?
Oh, I'm thinking it's going to have to be the ending.
It is the ending, yes.
Okay.
It was the ending. So the full original ending was restored in the unrated cut DVD release. So that's pretty cool little fact.
Yeah. Pretty rough.
All right.
So just so you know, Kelly, on the chat here, Carl Swan is he's screeching the answers out, trying to yell through the computer screen, and yeah, it's great stuff here. So you're not the only one. It's a hard one. Muse must be in a bad mood from being hot.
It's the heat.
Oh man,
She got her on a bad day.
Okay. All right. Question 9. And Ken is probably going to be coming out of his seat on this one. Okay. So in the movie The Witch from 2015, what are the names of the twin siblings of Thomason?
Oh, I don't know it. I don't remember those characters' names. I'm gonna take a hit on this one, guys.
Yeah, I don't remember him either, actually, to tell you the truth. I just
Oh,
remember
yeah.
Thomason. I remember her name. That was it.
It was Mercy and Jonas.
Ugh.
Mercy and Jonas.
I would have never gotten that in a million years.
I don't know if I would have got that one either because I could only remember Thomason myself. So I was
Yeah.
hoping Ken might know it.
No. I just
Yeah,
remember.
that's why
Get
I almost skipped that question because I was like,
That's a tough one.
I don't know this either.
I'm letting your fans down. I can tell you now.
No, you're not. You're not. It's a good challenge for everybody.
Not at all. Not at all. All right. Question 10. In the movie Reanimator from 1985, now this is a multiple choice just by itself.
Mhm.
So in the movie Reanimator from 1985, reanimation is made possible by which of the following? Injection, electricity, magic, or artificial intelligence?
I think it's A. It's A. Yeah, it's A.
It is A, is an injection. Yes, that is correct.
The cool cover of the video or the poster, it's got what's his face
That
holding the
syringe,
syringe.
yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes, great art. All right, question 11. In the movie Midnight Meat Train from 2008, what organ is removed from the protagonist Leon Kaufman to ensure his allegiance?
What was that? I was gonna know. I feel like it's
Think speech.
speech would be like his throat, his esophagus. Is it? I don't know.
Close. Mouth area.
Tongue.
Tongue. Correct.
That was such a cheat. I got the cheat on that. I couldn't even remember that. I mean,
It's not
Okay.
cheating unless I give you the answer. This is not cheating.
I gotta like go way back in the data bank. Some of these movies, like wow, in a long minute. A lot of these I had to sneak. And watch a lot of these movies as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
I dig it. You're still in good shape. You've only missed 3, and you got 2 more left.
Yeah. Okay, so question 12. Okay, I'm going to go with another movie synopsis and ask you to tell me which movie I'm speaking of. The dead won't stay dead, so a group of strangers barricade themselves inside a country house and try to survive the night in this 1968 film.
See, this is a perfect example of a Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
It's like freaking up, and I'm like, why can't I say the title of this movie?
You got it.
So question 13, the last one, is worth 2 points. And if you get these 2 points, you're actually in really good shape here because you've only missed 3 questions. So good luck. No pressure.
All right. It's a true or false, so it's 50-50 chance. All right. I'm just going to say before I give you the question, this is a tricky one. Unfortunately, I was like, I like this fact, so I threw it in. Ken's over there cringing.
Laughing. you're scaring him to death. He's gonna
Building up the suspense. Okay. So true or false? Early promotional television advertisements for the film The Ring from 2002 showed the dead girl Samara walking toward the screen with no mention of the film's title. Is that true or false?
That is true.
That is false.
Oh.
It was false. So
I thought that was-
actually,
okay.
so early television advertisements for The Ring showed the cursed video from the film, but they didn't mention the title, so they only showed like the video.
That was a trick. Yes,
That was very tricky. I'm gonna
funny business with that, and it was a very unique marketing campaign.
Yes, very cool too. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull rank here. Because that was a trick question. We're gonna nix that one. That was a trick question. So I'm gonna ask you a different question worth the 2 points. All right, let me just pull something out. Who voiced the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt?
What is the actor's name? That's even harder.
That's hard.
Is it? All right. All right. Name. Okay, here's a better one. Name one of the many actors who played Jason from Friday the 13th.
Crap, he was just in our studio.
Oh, that you better know. You better not be listening.
I can't even remember the big dude. He's the original guy, and I cannot remember his name. See, I freak out. You guys got it. I lost my 2 points.
Okay. Wait a minute. I got one more. True or false? Okay.
We're gonna get you this one. We're gonna get you this last these bonus points.
True or false? The creator of Child's Play from 1988 drew inspiration for Chucky from the case of an actual haunted doll. True or false?
I don't know the backstory on that, honestly. Love the movie, love the series. I'm going to say true.
It is true.
There you go.
Actually, yeah.
So the last answer was John Kassir did. Yeah, he did the Tales from the Crypt, and then Kane Hodder, there's so many, but Kane Hodder was the one I was thinking is probably the one you were thinking.
Kane Hodder was the guy in our studio, and
yeah.
he's an old gentleman now, but pretty big dude. Yeah,
still big dude. So listen, you did pretty well because you got that bonus question with a little tiny bit of help, and you've only missed 2 questions, so good job. You go 10 for 13. Listen, Kelly, this is an opportunity we'd like to give to our guest on what you're working on next, what's in the pipeline, and where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so our social media channels. Well, first, let me back up. I'll go in order. The project that I'm working on right now, it's very early in development stages, but I may be working on another horror piece, another haunted house piece. It's kind of what I'm scratching the surface on, but I'm pulling some inspiration from some more contemporary works like The Lighthouse, movies like that, and we'll see. I'm still in the early stages of it, so it's hard to talk about it, but probably in the next couple months I'll have something concrete. I am releasing a new book on filmmaking. That's another thing I'll be doing here pretty soon. I've got one out already called What Film Schools Don't Tell You, and I got a new one called A Filmmaking Mindset, and that's going to be talking about the micro budget experience. In terms of where to find me, I'm on social media. You can find me at Director Kelly on Instagram, and then IFF Factory is our other Instagram account, and then Indie Film Factory on Facebook.
Kelly, listen, thank you so much. I loved the film Abigail Haunting, and we all liked it as well. You can find that on Amazon Prime. Definitely watch that, check that out. Leave a nice review for Kelly. And yeah, man, take care. Hopefully, if I catch you out in Vegas, I'll hit you up and we can share a beer together, man. That's right.
Things, man. Hey, listen, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Take care. On behalf of Where the Scary Things Are, keep it scary, my friend.